Hello, my name is Chuck Moses, and I would like to talk to you today about IPM, or Integrated Pest Management, and the use of pesticides in indoor grow, cultivation, and greenhouse facilities. Marijuana cultivation facilities are now legal in many states, and there is an ongoing need to manage pest problems in these facilities. Many cultivation managers who are starting these businesses for the first time are surprised by the number of pest issues, which are regular problems, especially when growing plants indoors. A pest is anything that competes with, injures, or spreads disease to humans, domestic animals, desirable plants, structures, or possessions. Specifically, there are a number of insect and disease problems which occur because of humidity and warm temperatures. Crowding of plants in these facilities also contribute to the development of pest problems in indoor growing environments. The Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, and Rodenticide Act, also known as FIFRA, is the federal law which regulates the use, sale, distribution, and manufacturing of pesticides in the United States. The law is administered by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, and EPA has designated state agencies in each state to enforce this federal law. States must develop state laws which are at least as stringent as FIFRA, and in Nevada, NRS 555 and 586 serve that purpose. FIFRA defines a pesticide as any substance or mixture of substances designed to prevent, control, repel, or mitigate any pest. It includes insect and plant growth regulators, insecticides, herbicides, fungicides, and other products, many of which are not normally thought to be a pesticide. The easiest way to determine if a chemical product is regulated as a pesticide is to look at the label on the container and determine if there are pesticidal claims. Pesticidal claims include kill, control, and prevent a pest, although there are other terms which would fit into the pesticide category. Animal drugs and antibacterial hand soaps are examples of products that do make pesticidal claims but are regulated by the Federal Food and Drug Administration, or FDA, not EPA. In some cases, there are implied claims, internet literature, or simply a chemical which has no other use except for a pesticide. FIFRA further classifies pesticides as either general or restricted use. A general use pesticide is a product which is not likely to harm human health or the environment if it is applied according to label directions. These pesticide products can be purchased almost anywhere, and a user does not need a special certification in order to apply the product. Most products used in grow facilities are classified as general use. On the other hand, a restricted use pesticide, or RUP, may cause harm to human health or the environment unless it is applied by a certified competent applicator. Certification means specialized training and, in most cases, competency testing to assure an applicator has the knowledge to apply a RUP safely. Certification is required in all states for RUP applicators. In Nevada, one option for certification is to self study by reviewing the study manual online and then scheduling an examination once you are familiar with the study material. Certification can also be accomplished through live training opportunities, although testing is required for first-time certification in Nevada. Applicators can renew their certificates after 4 years by attending continuing education credit courses. Internet classes can also be taken for continuing education credit, and this course meets Nevada's requirement for 1 hour laws and regulation credit. Go to www.agri.nv.gov and then find the Environmental Services webpage in the Plant Industry Division to find out more information about pesticide certification in Nevada. Before we can talk about the use of pesticides, we must first discuss pest control strategies, which are different for each pest and pest situation. Integrated pest management, or IPM, is a pest management strategy which can be employed in any pest control situation. Intelligent pest management means using environmentally safe, effective, and economically viable methods to develop a long term pest control strategy, not one which focuses on the short term pest control situation. In other words, IPM is a combination, not just one, of pest control tactics incorporated into a single plan or strategy to reduce pests. IPM is not a no pesticide approach to pest control. Pesticides are an important tool in our pest control toolbox. However, it is important to recognize that the application of a pesticide by itself is a short term approach. When a pest problem arises and the pest is treated, the pest is controlled only for a short period of time. If environmental conditions do not change, the pest problem will arise again. Chemical control will then be required again, the process repeated, or otherwise known as getting on the pesticide treadmill. Over time, pests have been known to become resistant to chemicals from overuse, effectively removing a valuable tool in our IPM toolbox. So, what is the first step in the IPM process? The first step is to properly identify the pest we are trying to control. Note that I use the term control and not eliminate or exterminate a pest, which we know now is not a realistic pest control goal. If we do not know the exact identity of the pest we are trying to control, then we cannot employ the correct pest control strategy. This chart is a partial list of insects which infest cannabis. A thorough visual inspection of the plant will reveal the presence or absence of these pests because they infest different parts of the plant. Many believe that since cannabis is an exotic species, they think that there are few domestic pests that could become a problem for growers. These individuals find out in short order that this assumption is incorrect. Once an identification has been made, then it is important to set an economic threshold or a point where the population reaches a certain level and control is necessary. Monitoring is essentially counting the number of individuals that exist. Monitoring is also required afterwards to determine if our pest control strategy is effective. By establishing an economic threshold, we can then make a determination if control is necessary. In some situations, pests are aesthetic and don't result in a reduction of plant health. Once you determine that control is necessary, you are then required to have a list of all control options, not just chemical, and you will then evaluate the benefits and risks of each. Don't wait until the pest becomes a problem to take action. The best option may be one which can be employed before the pest becomes a problem, a preventative approach. By employing a non chemical option, we can be assured that we are utilizing the least toxic approach. Monitoring pest populations or results after we employ our pest control strategy is important to evaluate the treatment and then fine tune our strategy. Once we identify an effective strategy, we must then educate everyone involved to help keep pest populations from exploding. This is especially important in ensuring that a facility remains sanitary and clean, denying pests of the conditions which result in population growth. And these are food, water, and harborage. We can control insects by reducing the availability of food, water, and shelter, a sanitary measure which is considered to be preventative. Cultural control measures include maintenance of plant health and also includes reduced plant crowding, which will increase aeration and decrease excessively moist conditions. Mechanical control measures include hand removal of pests and disposal of infected plant material. The use of host or pest resistant material is again another preventative measure that discourages the development of pest populations. Biological control is the use of predators and or parasites which exist in the pest's natural environment. An example of a biological control is the use of predatory mites to control mite species which are considered to be pests. Chemical control suppresses a pest population for only a short period of time. In most cases, not all individuals of a pest population are killed. Eventually, if no other pest control strategies are employed, the pest population will build up again in a short period of time, and the surviving individuals will be resistant to the pesticide product we use. IPM control options that we select should be the one or a combination of options which result in the least harm to the environment or risk to the applicator. We do need to consider the cost of the most desirable option or options, but this should not be the only reason for selecting this particular option or combination of options. Too many times we select an option or pesticide product which is cheap but is not the best or most effective alternative. This picture represents the IPM action pyramid. For any pest control decision you are required to make, you would start at the bottom and work your way up. You need to remember to start the decision making process before pest populations become too high and limit your options to chemical control. Cultural control measures can be our most effective option in many situations. I mentioned the importance of sanitation in grow facilities. Excluding the introduction of pests in the first place, sanitation is almost as important. Regular maintenance and cleaning of grow rooms and communicating good sanitary practices to staff will be part of your cultural approach. Sticky traps and physical barriers are really exclusionary protections, but are considered to be a physical or mechanical approach. When pests exist in small numbers, a vacuum cleaner can actually be effective if pests are visible to the naked eye. A mechanical approach includes physically removing a pest or discarding infected plants. Glue boards are an effective control measure for controlling fungus gnats. Biological controls include the use of parasitic mice. Keep in mind, when employing biological control methods, there is usually a time lag between the time pest populations grow and the beneficial control agents increase in population. In other words, you won't see much of a difference in control until the beneficial population grows to the same level of the pest population. As I mentioned earlier, chemicals are an important option in an IPM program. If pest populations are low, reduced risk pesticides can be effective and may cost less than conventional pesticides. In most instances, there is less risk to the applicator and consumer, and PPE, personal protective equipment requirements, are minimal. Many of the FIFRA 25B exempted products fall into this category and include oils which serve as protectants and repellents. Insect growth regulators are pest specific in some cases. If reduced risk or lower toxicity products are not effective, then it will be necessary to employ conventional pesticide products, which are more hazardous and require extra safety measures be taken. These safety measures are described on the pesticide label. When a pest control strategy fails, it can usually be attributed to one of the factors listed here. Growers that utilize a chemical control measure assume that if a failure occurs, it is because the chemicals must be bad. This is rarely the case. Investigations into these failures usually indicate that the timing of the application was incorrect. Improper identification of the pest and not using the proper dilution rates could be a reason for the failure as well. I mentioned that the pest resistance is a real possibility if we use the same or similar classifications of pesticides over and over again. Pests which survive these applications will reproduce and their offspring will be resistant as well. Our primary pesticide safety goal is to protect human health and the environment. Once we make a decision to use a pesticide product, then we must follow label directions and any other specific requirements established by the state regulatory agency. By doing this, we will be protecting human and environmental health, and we will ensure that pesticides are not removed from our toolbox because of pesticide misuse. Although federal pesticide rules apply to all 50 states, pesticide rules in each state are different for grow facilities. This is because the EPA considers marijuana to be a drug and not a crop. Therefore, there are no federally registered pesticide products that are approved for use on marijuana. When state legislatures passed marijuana laws legalizing both medical and recreational uses, it became the state's responsibility to create pesticide use rules. For this reason, states have developed their own lists of approved pesticide products. At least one state agency prohibits pesticide use on medical marijuana unless special conditions exist. In this presentation, we will be talking about Nevada pesticide rules for grow facilities, which are similar to other states but not the same. What is the same is that all pesticides must be used according to label directions. You will need to check with your state regulatory agency to determine which pesticides are approved for use on medical and or recreational marijuana. In Nevada, pesticide use information can be found on the department's website at www.agri.nv.gov. Not only can you find information about getting certified to use or supervise the use of restricted use pesticides, you can find the most current list of pesticide products approved for use on medical marijuana indoors. The link to the list of approved pesticide products can be found on the department's introductory page. Once you visit this link, you will be directed to a two-page document. The first page of the document describes the specific requirements of selecting a pesticide product, which must meet certain criteria. Of all the requirements that a cultivation facility must follow, the most important is that the pesticide applicator must select a pesticide product which contains an active ingredient on the pesticide list. When medical marijuana became legal in Nevada, the legislature devised specific criteria for placing pesticide ingredients on the approved list. All pesticide products must be registered by the Nevada Department of Agriculture as well. This is the criteria that the Nevada lawmakers established. First, the active ingredient is exempted from registration by EPA as a FIFR 25B pesticide, or it is allowed to be used on crop group 19, which is established by EPA as well. Once the active ingredient is identified by the grower, the applicator must then pick a product that contains a greenhouse labeling provision and is a commercial, not residential use product. And finally, the active ingredient must have a registered crop or food use intended for human consumption. FIFRA 25B pesticide products are approved for use in cultivation facilities in most states, and Nevada is no different. This is a list of 25B active ingredients which are exempted from EPA registration because they are considered to be reduced risk. Mentioned previously, these products can be effective when used as preventative measure or when pest populations are low. These products are exempt from registration and approved for use by SB 447. In addition to this, these products are exempted from tolerance requirements. As stated earlier in this presentation, I spoke about the fact that EPA has not allowed registered pesticide products to include marijuana on the label. Since 25B products are not registered but exempted, many of these product labels do state that they can be used on cannabis. This label is an example of one of those products. As you can see, it includes an active ingredient which is exempted from pesticide registration, and it specifies that it can be used on marijuana and industrial hemp. Up to this point in the presentation, I have not mentioned industrial hemp, a close relative of marijuana, because up to now the presentation addresses primarily the indoor use of pesticide, and industrial hemp is primarily grown outside. Since hemp is cultivated outdoors and was grown primarily for industrial uses, which is not the primary use now, by the way, EPA has registered some products with industrial hemp on the label. I will say a few words about this at the end of the presentation. Nevada law states that pesticide products exempted from federal registration requirements can be added to the pesticide list. These products are better known as FIFRA 25B products and include plant protectants such as mint oil and corn oil. Most states allow the use of FIFRA 25B products in marijuana cultivation facilities, because they are considered to be reduced risk and are exempted from pesticide tolerance requirements. A pesticide tolerance is the amount of pesticide residue which is allowed on a crop at the time of harvest. If pesticide residue is present at a level below the established tolerance level, the crop products can be safely consumed. For all pesticide products which can legally be used on crops that aren't exempted from tolerance requirements, these products can be used providing they are labeled for use in a commercial greenhouse. The use of pesticide tolerances or action levels by the Nevada Division of Public and Behavioral Health, DPBH, has added an extra safety factors for consumers. Cultivators in Nevada must have each harvest tested to make sure that pesticide residue does not exceed a food tolerance. Food tolerances have been established only for pesticides that have legal food uses and are not exempted from tolerance requirements. By using the lowest dilution rate established by the pesticide label, early in the grow process will help assure that pesticide residue levels do not exceed the pesticide tolerance levels established. If pesticide residue levels do not exceed the established tolerance, then the commodity should be safe for consumers. Here is the tolerance or action levels that have been established by the DPBH. There are only a few products on this list which are not legal to use. These include abamectin, cypermethrin, and paclobutrazol. These action levels have been deliberately established at low levels to prevent illegal use. Again, a pesticide tolerance is the amount of pesticide residue that can legally remain at the time of harvest on a food commodity. An easy way to tell if the greenhouse product you are planning to use is approved for commercial use is to look for the Worker Protection Reference Statement, also known as the Agricultural Use Box on the pesticide label. This is a copy of the Agricultural Use Box from a pesticide label. The product references the Federal Worker Protection Standard, or WPS. Applicators who apply pesticides in greenhouses, and this term, by the way, now includes warehouses, must comply with the Federal Worker Protection Standard. The provisions of the WPS will be discussed in another presentation, so an applicator needs to determine what the specific provisions of the WPS are prior to using a registered pesticide product. Products considered to be fit for 25B exempted pesticides are also exempted from the WPS. Other information which can be found in the agricultural use box is the required re-entry interval after plants are treated and the personal protection that a person must wear while mixing, loading, and applying pesticides. Here is a copy of the Nevada pesticide list. The list is updated on a regular basis, so applicators must visit the NDA website to be sure they are working with the most current legal list. The list is updated as information is received from laboratories and grow facilities related to efficacy of existing products, new products that applicators wish to add to the list, or there are problems because of residue issues, usually reported by the laboratories. The list is color coded to let applicators know when there are legal products that could be a problem if applicators do not use the lowest rates early in the grow process. These products are in yellow. New active ingredients appear in green, and active ingredients which appear in red will be removed from the list. Applicators must not confuse the NDA list of approved products with the DPBH action level list. products must be selected from the NDA pesticide list. Since only active ingredients appear on the list, it is up to the applicator to choose a pesticide product which contains an approved active ingredient, has a commercial greenhouse label, not for home use, and is registered by the Department of Agriculture. The last part of this presentation will give some examples of this criteria. This presentation is divided into two parts. We are taking a break from the presentation to take a practice quiz designed to test your knowledge of the material we have covered thus far. If you cannot answer these questions, you should reread Part 1 and take the practice quiz again.